And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at Marvel Legendary Noir. Now, Legendary has a cooperative deck building game. Of course, you know this. You're watching this as an expansion for the game that has encompassed so many heroes. And the people who make Legendary are obviously big comic fans, because they will find comic stories that aren't even really that popular and make sets out of them. And I found that in the past, those sets have usually tended to be my least favorite sets, because I'm looking for things that I can more identify with, or that I could say, hey, this is who this person is. So this set, based on a small alternate universe that they made, because they're mixing Noir and X-Men, or the Marvel, I guess, and it just doesn't really mix to me. I like Noir, I like X-Men. I don't necessarily need to hear that Spider-Man's uncle was killed, and so now he's a detective, alternate thing. That might be good for a quick comic, but I don't want a whole series on it. And I especially don't need to see it in Legendary. But whatever, it is. So let's take a look at it. Alright, so there are 5 new heroes. Each of them are detectives to some degree. We have Spider-Man Noir here, who, like all the different Spider-Man cards in the game, has cards that cost 2. Now, he has a new keyword here on him called Investigate. When you investigate, you look at the top 2 cards of your deck. If you find a card that meets whatever your investigation is, so here it says Investigate for a card that costs 2 or less. So I turn one of these over. Hey, one of these cards costs 2 or less. You could put that card in your hand. Regardless of whether you put a card in your hand or not, the rest of the cards can go on top of your deck, or you can discard them. So Investigate kind of lets you focus with your deck a bit. Here you can investigate the bystander stack for a bystander. So you can get kind of a bystander of your choice. And here you can investigate each player's deck for a card that costs 2 or less. Play a copy of it, put it in your discard pile. Daredevil Noir here. I like his small card here is pretty nice. It's a 1/1, and the next hero you recruit goes on top of your deck. That's a pretty good card for a cost of 3. And he can also investigate for a very specific cost card. So if you know what kind of cards are in your deck, you can investigate for them. You'll find that Investigate is on a lot of these ones. Investigate for a card that costs 0. His big card is discard a card from the top or bottom of your deck. If it costs 0, you get +1 and you can repeat it. The thing about this card is it's great right at the beginning of the game, because you have a lot of cost 0 cards in your deck. The problem is, as time goes by, you're probably going to have fewer of those cards. As you get the better cards, this having 0 cards giving you more and more cards to play probably isn't worth it. Then we have Angel Noir. He really looks like Superman, huh? Anyway, here is just a basic attack, right? Choose a hero class, investigate for a card of that class. Here I get the printed attack and money value of a hero in a headquarters. This one's a very intriguing one, and I love the theming of it, right? And identical twin brother. But then you put that hero on the bottom of the hero deck. So it's like, oh, I'm going to temporarily use that, then it's going to go away. But it could be really amazing. Or investigate for any card. That's a really great one. Investigate the hero deck for any card and put that card in your hand. And it's a 3 attack. Then we have Iron Man Noir, who is like steampunk Iron Man, who also investigates. He has a nice, cheap 3 attack, but you have to discard another card to use it. And his big card here is when you investigate this turn, you look at 3 cards instead of 2. And then he can pick what to investigate with this card. And I really also like this card a lot too. Learning from enemies, where you can use the fight ability of a villain that's worth 1 in your victory pile. So you get some villains, you can use their special abilities possibly when you're fighting. And finally, we have Luke Cage Noir here. He can investigate too, just like everyone else. He gets +1 here for each other card you play that costs 4 or more. That's a nice one, that big leads. And then we have Unbreakable Cage, where you can investigate a card instead of getting a wound. Or this one here, which is I really like. It's a 5 attack, +2 for each other card you play that costs 4 or more. Has some great big cards. You can do a really, really powerful attack with Luke Cage. There's also a single bystander card in this set. I mean, 1. And that here is Wolverine, because Wolverine is required to be in every set on Earth of every kind of thing that has to do with Marvel. So you can investigate when you rescue him. Now, Bystanders are important in this set because the villains have something called hidden witnesses. So, for example, when Fancy Dan shows up, he captures 3 hidden witnesses. You'll take 3 bystander cards and you will stick them face down on him. These count as bystanders for all intents and purposes of the game. You know, if he gets through them, players will lose cards and so on. However, you cannot attack Fancy Dan until you get rid of those. And the way that you get rid of those is you are going to pay 2 for each one, and then you rescue it. When you rescue it, the bystander will come right into your pile, and you might get a special effect from them. But it's to show that you can't find the villain until you investigate witnesses, and these would be the witnesses that you would do. So a lot of the villains in this one do. So this is one of the sets here, is the Goblin's Freak Show, a circus type thing with some of the villains from, well, Spider-Man for the most part. So you hear each Goblin's Freak Show villain captures a hidden witness when this guy shows up. Or the Chameleon, he captures a hidden witness. And he has a chance to move around the board. And the Vulture Carnival Cannibal, which sounds fantastic. We also have the X-Men Noir. And they, when you fight them, you will investigate. This one here, you investigate for a hero that costs 0 and KOs it. That's what happens when you fight against Colossus. This is kind of an interesting design choice here, having that spill there. But when you fight the X-Men, you can investigate. But what I find fascinating, not to mention Warden Emma Frost, who's mean and nasty, who lets you investigate the villain deck for a scheme twist, which isn't fun. But they're led by one of the 2 masterminds in this set, which is Charles Xavier, Professor of Crime. He gets +1 attack. He's 8, which is not much, but he's +1 for every bystander in the city. And whenever a Master Strike shows up, he puts 4 heroes in the headquarters, will capture hidden witnesses. So hidden witnesses will go on a hero, and then you have to basically pay off those hidden witnesses before you can buy that hero. So that's Charles Xavier. It comes with, you know, a set of tactics cards. And then the other mastermind is the Goblin, who he's all about hidden witnesses too. He captures 2. He will, when he Master Strikes, he'll capture people that have been that you've already rescued. So again, this whole thing is about those witnesses and about the investigation thing. There's also some new different schemes. This one I like because it just adds a ton of villains. This one's all about witnesses. You can't let any of the witnesses get killed. This turns mastermind tactics into bad guys. And then this one, which is my favorite thematically, one of the heroes is actually a bad guy, and you basically have to guess who that is as cards come out. It's kind of like a tiny deduction game as the game progresses. Well, color me surprised here to find out that I really enjoyed this. I really was ready to write it off. I was really ready to get rid of it. I don't like the characters that much. I still don't like the characters that much. But adding this to Marvel Legendary is fun. I really like the new mechanisms this adds. The whole Noir thing about the witnesses and how you have to go through the witnesses to get to the bad guys, that's good. It's a nice, new, simple, easy mechanism. The Investigate's a pretty powerful thing. I investigate, get to draw 2 cards. Don't like these. These are bad. Stick them on the bottom. You know, get rid of them. Or, ooh, I get to put one in my hand, and this one's coming up next turn. I'm putting that on top of the deck. Very handy, especially Iron Man, where he lets you investigate 3 cards. So I like how those work together. I like the bad guys, too. I like the new schemes. I like pretty much all the cards in this set. Even Wolverine. Don't get me wrong. I like Wolverine. It's just it's getting a little tiresome to see how much he shows up and stuff. But it's a good set. So theming-wise, yeah, you can play it by itself, right? You can take the detectives, the different detectives, mix them together, have them go up against Xavier or the Goblin, and that works fine. It's a nice self-contained set, but it also fits with everything else. These mechanisms, the investigating is just a nice thing to have mixed with everything else, and the bystanders that get captured by the villains, that also works well, and of course the scheme twists work across the board. So I was surprised. So if you are playing Marvel Legendary for the theme, I don't know if this will appeal to you or not, depends how much if you like the comics or not. But if you play it for the mechanisms and the cool things that happen, this is a really good one. This is actually one of the best ones I've seen so far in that regard. That's Legendary Marvel Noir. Dice Tower Judgment, excellent!
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool Stuff, in stock. Check them out at coolstuffinc.com.
Shut the door!